So some people, they learn best by reading from a book. Some people learn best by watching others succeed. And some people, they learn best by getting their hands dirty and making mistakes. I happen to be one of those third types of learners. And this video is all about me trying to force my brain to figure out how to use this affordable bender. So stay tuned if you want to see a little bit of trial and error in action. Hey folks, it's Nate. You might remember the last time I broke out the affordable bender and did my first bends with it. I made some mistakes about basically measuring the amount of tube that I needed to use to get it through a bend and the points at which I should be creating bends. So I've done a little bit of research and I've decided that one thing I want to do before I do any other projects with this bender is I want to figure out two things. One, how do I figure out where to make a bend so that I can do things like I need to clear X number of inches with a U-shaped bend, right? How do I figure out where this bend goes after I've made this one, right? And part of that is figuring out how much tube is required to actually complete a bend. So this is not a crazy complicated video. What I'm going to do is I have a little experiment that I want to conduct, and I thought I would bring you guys along for the ride. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take a piece of tube. In fact, I'm going to take the same piece of tube that I used in that initial video, and I'm going to make a 90-degree bend in there. And that'll give me two things. One, it's going to give me a little more practice making 90-degree bends. And two, it's going to let me figure out how many inches of tube get spent in a 90-degree bend. The way I'm going to figure that out is I'm going to mark inch by inch by inch along a tube, and then I'm going to try to draw it through the bender. And then we should be able to see where the bend, how much tube is eaten up by the bend. And basically, this will help me figure out where bends have to be made, where bends have to be started in order to get through a bend. So, I'm going to get my tube, get my paint marker, and a measuring tape, and we'll get going from there. Okay, so as you might remember, I bent this end of that tube because I was trying to make a hoop for the bumper. And I bent it too narrow. And I messed up the one bend because I was basically doing, I guess you could call it a compound bend, for this bender to get beyond 90 degrees, or honestly, to my thought at the time, to get 90 degrees at all, I thought I had to do several bends. I'm going to put that to the test today because some videos I've watched on the affordable bender suggest that I do not need to bend more than one bend in order to get 90 degrees. So I'm going to try as hard as I can to get 90 out of one bend without having to reposition the tube. And that's going to sort of change things for me a bit. But first, what I want to do is I'm going to take this tube and I'm going to mark off inch by inch, maybe a foot, foot and a half, just as a guide so I know how much tube gets consumed in a full 90-degree bend. And then what I'm going to have at the end of this is I'm going to have a nice sort of guide so that in the future I will know how much tube I need, not just from memory, but by having this thing to reference. So I think I'm going to do this every time I get a different size tube. So I'm getting an 1 3/4 die, and when I get some 1 3/4 tube, I'm going to do the same thing. Then I'm going to make a 90 bend, and then I'm going to have it as a reference guide. So let's get to marking. So that's a full 2 feet. I'm not going to measure a whole 2 feet out. I'm going to get maybe 18 inches. 18 inches. Now what I'm going to do is extend these a bit so that I can see a little more than just these little dots, because part of that's going to be hidden by the die, right? Just going to kind of freehand these because it's close enough. Got a stripy piece of tube now. I'm going to let this dry a little bit so I don't get my die all covered in paint, and then we're going to try to make a bend. Alright, so basically what I've done here is I've clamped the tube in there. I did want to mention something. You might remember, if you watched my initial video on using this thing, that I said it was difficult to get the pipe into the clamp. Well, that either was a me thing or it did in fact break in a little bit after the first couple bends, because I am now able to simply loosen this bolt up and get the tube in Now getting it out again could be a whole other ball game, but getting it in there was not all that bad. So basically what you have to do is you loosen this bolt up, then you push the die back as far as you can, and then you bring the tube in. It's hard to explain. You basically have to angle the tube slightly out of the die, get it through the bender, get it through the clamp, and then set it in place, right? So it's very loose until you get it there. Then, once you have it in place, you tighten this up and then give a couple pumps on the jack, and that tightens the tube into the position that it'll be in when it's ready to bend. So the clamp was just slightly out of round when I got it, but like I said, after the first bend, that solved itself because it's under a decent amount of pressure. All right, so what I've done is I've positioned the tube so that it's basically the 2-inch mark is flush with the inside of this clamp, right? Maybe it's the 1-inch mark. I think it's the 1-inch mark because this clamp is about 1 inch. Now I'm going to try to bend it. We're going to get 90 degrees out of it, and we'll see how it goes. Alright, so I'm at full extension of the jack, and we're at 82 degrees. So I don't think I can get a full 90 in a single go with a bend. So I'm going to try to reposition the tube, and this is good practice for me. It seems like what we're going to end up with is 90 is going to fall. I mean, right now the die is lined up with 15, 16, 17, 18, yeah, 15 inches. Now, minus an inch maybe for the clamp, so 14 inches. So I feel like this is information I could have found online, but I'm a hands-on sort of learner. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to reposition this tube now and see if I can get a full 90 out of it. All right, so what I've done here is I moved the tube up to the point where the bend is still within the die. All right, so I'm at almost the end of it, almost the end of the bend. But remember I said the 15-inch mark was at the end of the die? I went to like the 13-inch mark and tried to get the clamp to catch. Now, I found this is tricky because when you're in the bend, the clamp doesn't want to catch, right? So you have to get just to the right spot. We'll see if I've managed to get this right. Now, the other trick with a two-step or compound bend like this is making sure that everything is oriented properly. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to orient the bend to the body of the bender, which I think is the right way to do this. Okay, so what you do is you take your angle finder, in this case this is digital, and then you zero it. That's basically telling it this plane is 0. Okay? Then you take it and you put it on the side of the tube. And if it's not 0, you need to re-angle. So this means I need to move it slightly this way. Now it's very close. Oh, wrong way. That's pretty darn close to spot on. Now, I mean, it looks straight. This assumes that the body is... Maybe I should do it to the side of the die. That might be better. Can I get the side of the die? The die is aluminum, I think. So let's zero it there. And then put it here. Yeah, see, that's a little bit off now. It's about as close to 0 as I'm going to get it, I think. Okay, now we're going to put the tension back on the bender and go from there. Okay, now the tension's back on. We're going to zero to the plane of this, I suppose, is the best way to go, to this. So, turn it on. 0. Put it there. Now I'm going to finish my bend. Alright, so I don't know if you can see on my gauge here, but I'm 1.5 degrees past 90. Snapback is still a thing that's new to me, so we're going to see if we actually get 90 when I'm done. How am I going to get 90? How am I going to measure it? I don't know. I may clamp the tube down in my vise or something and try to get 0 and then here, and we'll see. So. Looks like 90. Let's measure and find out. Just about 0. We're going to hit the 0 button anyway. Zeroed. Moment of truth. Do we get 90? 88.27. So does that tell me that it did not snap back? Because if you remember, that's right where I had it. Now, yeah. That is just a hair past 90. So does that mean I shouldn't go past? Or is it less than a degree of snapback? I don't know. That's pretty close. And for the kind of work I'm going to be doing, it might be good enough. But I don't like things that are pretty close. I really like things that are accurate. So we're going to write on this or something that say that it's 88, not 90. Now, how many inches did it take? Alright, so remember the clamp took up about an inch right here. Looks like the bend starts here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. I'd say it ends at 15. So 15 inches it took to bend 90 degrees on an inch and a half. That experiment is that. So now I have a piece here that I can use for sort of comparison and whatnot. I'll probably lob this thing off and then I'll have a piece of 90 just to use for, you know, as a template when I'm trying to build things and mock stuff up. I've seen a lot of fabricators do that. It's a lot quicker than trying to figure out angles and whatnot. Listen, I know this wasn't a crazy technical video, but I think I've learned something here. I hope you have too. And I hope that if you liked it, you hit the like button at the bottom of this video and let me know that you liked it. If you didn't like it, you know, whatever. Go look for something else. I've got wheeling videos, I've got fabrication videos, and whatever. I'm still learning how this thing works, and you get to come along for the ride. I said I was bringing you. Here you are. If you like the channel, you can support me via SWBCrawler.com. We've got a Patreon, and I've got merchandise up there for sale if you want to support me that way by buying my merch. And with that, until the next video, get out there and wheel, folks, and I'll see you in the next one. Did you watch all that?